Welcome to NCIX Tech Tips. Today's episode is going to be about the Vesta i5 SFF. And now, while this isn't quite a small form factor machine in the sense that it's using a standard form factor, that is micro ATX, it is a small form factor machine in the sense that it is a gaming machine, and traditionally you wouldn't think of a gaming rig as being able to fit into such a small enclosure. Now for the micro ATX chassis that we're using, we had to pick something with adequate ventilation to support even dual graphics cards in SLI or Crossfire. So what I have next to it is an Nzxt Tempest 410. This is what I would consider to be more like your typical gaming chassis. It has a lot of mesh in the front, it's got a lot of mesh in the top, and it is significantly bigger than the PS07. It also has a big fat side window, which means that if you want to show off the internals, then you can. Now, the drawback of something like a PS07 is that you can't really show off the internals, but not everyone wants that. Some people just want a clean, professional-looking, small, quiet box that still absolutely rocks when you try and run the latest games. So the PS02 has a couple cool features before I actually get it opened up. Number one is the magnetized fan filter on the top. So all you have to do is pull that off, clean it off, throw it back in place. Number two is the fan filter in the front. So you open up this door in the front of the case and you can see it actually has a bowed shape to it. That gives it more surface area and thus less airflow resistance for the two 120mm intake fans that actually get their airflow from these vents in the sides right here. So you can throw, whoops, when you're putting that back in, you probably want to do it while the system is powered down so you don't accidentally jam it into the fans, because that is not preferable. You also have front USB 3, a front microphone, as well as front headphone jack, power and reset switches, and then two 5 1/4 inch bays. Now once you get the case opened up, you can see that we've got a very efficiently laid out micro ATX case going on here. So it can hold, in addition to a full-length graphics card, so you can fit up to even a high-end graphics card like a GTX 680 or Radeon 7970 with lots of room for cooling. In addition to that, it can hold 6 drives, including a dedicated SSD mount that is screwed in from the bottom. So if you configure your system with a boot SSD, we'll know exactly where to put it. You can also hold another 5 hard drives here. And then if you wanted to, you could even use a 5 1/4 inch bay adapter in order to host yet another drive. Or you can use that for a card reader or whatever else you want to mount up in the top. So there's two 5 1/4 inch bays. You can see here the two 120mm intakes, as well as the 120mm exhaust at the back, and then finally the exhaust that is provided by the power supply. So you've got two 120s in, two 120s out for a very balanced approach to airflow. Now if you have your power supply configured the other way around, using the dust filter on the top, although we didn't because due to the cooler design of this video card, we wanted to use this as an extra exhaust, then you would have a positive airflow situation inside this case, which is good because positive airflow with filtered fan intakes results in a more dust-free overall environment inside the computer. Now, it should be noted that this system, while it does come with a Core i5 processor, a Radeon 6850 or equivalent GeForce graphics card, does have optional liquid cooling in it, but it doesn't come with that by default. So that is something that you have to configure with it. Now with the optional liquid cooling, the CPU doesn't get over 60 degrees under load, and we're talking like Lin pack load. We're not talking like gaming load. So in spite of its small size, it does a fantastic job of keeping things cool. So when you're looking for gaming on a budget in a very small form factor type of machine, this is the way to go. However, there are some key upgrades that if you were looking to spend a little more than 900 bucks, I would definitely recommend. You can throw a Gigabyte G1 Assassin M3, their new 1155 Z77 Sniper. Did I say Assassin? Okay. G1 Sniper M3 motherboard, so that's their new mATX Z77 board with all the gaming features, all the overclocking, whatnot. I would throw in the water cooling. I would maybe go with a higher end graphics card, maybe a GTX 570 or a Radeon 7950, something along those lines, and you can even fit up to 2 graphics cards in SLI or Crossfire if you configure it that way, in which case I would probably also beef up the power supply, although the one that's in here now, a CX500, is more than capable of powering pretty much any single GPU configuration. To round out the stock config, you've got a 1 terabyte hard drive, so don't forget, if you add that Z77 board, you can also throw in an SSD for caching in order to get a nice, fast, overall storage solution. Now last thing, I did talk about the back of the machine, but I didn't actually show it to you. So you can see from the back, you got all of your usual I/O. You've got your LED fan, which comes in the color of your choice. So while it doesn't have the snazzy pizzazz with the window and the lights all on the interior, you're going to get a little bit of an underglow, so it's kind of a nice accent. You've also got up to 4 expansion bays, so if you do 2 dual slot graphics cards, then that's pretty much all you're going to be able to put in it. But if you have 1 dual slot graphics card, you can actually throw in a sound card or a dedicated LAN card or whatever else you want. And finally, the rest of the back is taken up by the power supply, so not a square inch of space on the back of the chassis is actually wasted. So thank you very much for checking out this episode about the Vesta i5 SFF, which does go to show you that you can build a wicked gaming box even in a micro ATX form factor, and you don't have to compromise on power consumption or noise in order to achieve that. And you also don't have to compromise on upgradability, because you can even throw SLI or Crossfire in a little box like this. Very cool stuff. Thanks for watching NCIX Tech Tips, and don't forget to subscribe.